Well, hello and welcome to Coffee Chats with Diane Nix. I'm glad you're here. I am excited today to join my friend Dianne Dougharty as we introduced last week this 7 sessions that we're going to be covering this word that some of you are going, I don't want to do that, biblical hospitality. I think it conjures up so many different feelings and emotional things within us. And last week we talked about the biblical admonition to practice hospitality as believers. And we introduced my friend Dianne Dougharty, who has a ministry that she's founded called Secret Savored, and it's dedicated to fostering meaningful relationships between older and younger women, following the model outlined in Titus 2, 3 through 5. And we'll share more of that information about what Secrets Savor does. But today, this week, if you're listening, get a cup of coffee and be ready as we talk about feelings of insufficiency, inadequacy. I'm telling you, in intimidation and maybe wrongful emotional expectations. We want you to join us today as we discover what it looks like to just step boldly past our comfort zone to practice biblical hospitality. Hey, Diane, I'm glad you're back with me.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. I'm excited about the topic today. I think we have a tendency as women to get anxious when we are having folks into our home. So I am excited to talk with you about this and to encourage women in practicing biblical hospitality.
Well, I'm excited that you're here. So let's talk about a story that you have that just gets us right into the middle of what it looks like to be intimidated in biblical hospitality.
Okay. When Mark and I were young, we had some friends that lived in Nashville, which was home to us, but at the time we were living in another state. So when we'd go back to Nashville, we would go over to our friends' home, Joy and Clyde, and they just built a big, beautiful new home. Every time we went, Joy had the china out and the sterling flatware, the fine crystal. Her recipes were amazing. I still have recipe cards of her recipes that she gave me years ago. And I just found it sometimes to be very intimidating. I felt inadequate compared to, Joy's abilities to be hospitable. I had a small home and I was inexperienced. I got married at 17. When it came to cooking, I had done some, but not a lot. And so I found those times of going to their home to be enjoyable to be with friends, but to be a little intimidating in her skills compared to my skills at that time. So is there a time when you had that same experience, maybe when you were young?
Well, I did, and a very similar story. I mean, I'm a country girl. I will say that early on uh, in my life, I didn't come from a faith home, but I went to some form of like at Girl Scouts. It wasn't, I can't remember if it was really Girl Scouts or not, but they taught us how to set a proper table, but just the basics like knife, spoon, fork, just the very basics. So coming in as a new pastor's wife and really barely saved, like just a short time of being saved, God would put us in our first church in Fort Worth, Texas, with an incredible man of God and his wife, who was Dr. J.T. Luther, and Zelma was her name. And they are on, their pictures are on the hallways of Southwestern Seminary's walls. And there was a road, I don't know if it's still there, but it's J.T. Luther Boulevard, and they belong to the country club. And I remember that season in my life going to lunch with them and being in a place where there were more silverware on the table than I'd ever seen in my life. And I didn't know which fork or spoon to use. And I thought, I will never be able to do this myself. And so I heard the Holy Spirit. I'm not trying to make it too spiritual, but I really was like, oh Lord, I'm going to embarrass myself in their
Yeah.
home. I'm going to embarrass myself. And so I just heard the Holy Spirit say, watch whatever they do, pick up whatever
Yes.
they pick up. And
Yes.
that's what I did. And I did that, but I also felt like, I can never do, I mean, we didn't have that kind of thing. We had a nice home. God had provided a nice home, and I
Right.
had a few dishes, but there was not any way I could do
Right.
what
Right.
she did.
Right.
And so I became a little intimidated as to what this is going to look like in the future. And eventually I had to throw it all and cast all my cares upon the Lord, and cast all that intimidation to the wind, because it was needed
Right.
that we had our church family, our church staff in our home, and we just did it. I just did it.
Yes.
But I remember being like overwhelmed and making sure everything was perfect in the house. And over the years, I am so glad that I've relaxed a bit on
Yes.
that.
You found some freedom there to
Uh,
be you.
yeah, well, some of it, some I had. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think we do?
Well, I think we place rigid expectations upon ourselves, and when we do that, we're not going to enjoy opening our home or the time that we have with our guests, because we've set such a standard for ourselves and for that evening. And I just think we need to be careful, because fear and anxiety steal away our joy and our peace. And I have a friend. She does not enjoy hospitality. She is precious, loves people, but it just stresses her out. And so she was having her husband's gun club over, and it was all guys. And she pretty much bought all the food. She has a housekeeper to clean the house, and I did the desserts. But yet, on the day they were coming, just in preparation, getting the dishes out and different things she had to do, her Apple Watch began to flash the word breathe, 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 because
Because
she was
obviously she
so
wasn't breathing.
she wasn't breathing, which is not a good thing. And she was so
Myself.
anxious about it that she was holding her breath. And so I just think we need to encourage women to resist placing those intense expectations upon themselves, because, people don't come with a lot of expectation. They're just grateful to have been asked over, to have the fellowship, again, to be loved and cared about. And we are the ones that often put these expectations upon ourselves. And
Yes.
sometimes we're married to a spouse who has great expectations in that
Right.
area.
Yeah.
And so if we are stressed and we are anxious, then we are not going to enjoy the evening. Our guests are not going to enjoy their time in our
Well,
home.
and what happens with us, I think, I was not a nice person all the time with the girls growing up in my house.
Yes.
When we were getting
Yes.
ready for an open house or an event, I was like a drill sergeant. And so
Yes.
as we're sharing that, we want you ladies out there to know you're not alone in some of the
Right.
things that we do as women to make things happen. I mean, we are Marthas when it comes to that. We are like, get out of the way, get the job done.
Right.
Do you not know what's about to happen here? I mean,
Yeah. Do you not realize we're having people over?
yes,
I
can you not,
know.
and get happy about it. Be happy. Be happy.
Clean your room and be happy. The verse in Philippians 6, be anxious for nothing,
Uh,
is
mm,
is a good one. And I've often
yeah.
asked God, "Are you serious? We're not to be anxious about anything?" And He says, "Don't be anxious about anything." And so we are to pray, and we are to have a thankful spirit. And when we do, God gives us that peace, and really gives us peace of heart and peace of mind. And stress and anxiety, again, are going to rob us of that joy and just the pleasure of having people into our homes. So when we open our homes, we need to also, I think, keep in mind our stage of life. You and I are at a
Oh,
different stage
well,
of life than we were when we were younger, and used to get so very stressed about everything. I recently had a young lady into my home for lunch, and she walked in and looked around, and she said, "Your home is so perfect." And I know she meant that as a compliment, but my
yeah,
heart was
absolutely.
really broken
Absolutely.
over that because I
Right.
don't want anyone to think that my home is perfect. It's not. It's not run by a perfect person. But what I
Absolutely.
really want is a home that's a reflection of Christ and that's warm, that's inviting, that people feel at home, that you can put your feet up on my couch and it's okay. That's what I want. And so I do think we need to keep in mind we're not aiming for perfection in biblical hospitality,
That's a good
and
word in and of itself right there. We're not aiming for perfection. We're aiming for relationship with
that's
connection,
right.
right?
That's right.
We're wanting
Absolutely.
things to connect with the people that are coming into our home.
Yes,
So important.
we do. That's what it's all about. And at this stage of life, we don't have little ones running around pulling everything out and making a mess. And so it's easier for us to keep a home. And so we may not have that stress that a younger woman has trying to juggle children and all of those things and be prepared for when people come for dinner. So I just think the young moms especially need to keep in mind that people know where they are in life and they don't have that expectation when they come. Really, I think people just are grateful to have been asked, and so we need to relieve ourselves of that pressure that we put on
Yeah,
ourselves and
absolutely.
those expectations that we have that pretty much our guests never have.
Yeah, they don't have that. They just are excited about being invited to your home. And truth, ladies, sometimes, I mean, one of my stories is that I opened up my house for an open house every year for Christmas. I felt compelled to do that in our church. And both, we served two churches for 21 and a half years. And, I just started having an open house. And I can tell you that one time I found a woman in my closet just checking things out.
She had expectations,
She had
obviously.
expectations. I said, "Oh, can I help you find something?"
Oh,
And the
no.
reality was that you are going to have some of that. But generally speaking, 99% of the people who visited my home during those open houses and those folks that we had to eat with us and those lost people that sat around our table that were not like us, they just wanted to know that they were just excited about being in our home. They were just
Right,
excited about being loved on. And it
right,
didn't matter what we served or what happened to the meals as it got started. So
right. Or even what you served on. Paper plates are okay. Not having flowers in the
yes.
middle of the table, it's
Yeah,
okay.
right. It doesn't
We
matter.
don't,
Sometimes the best thing
doesn't
we can
matter.
do is to be more casual with the group of friends. So I think that the word for any woman listening to this is be mindful of your audience. Sometimes it's okay to
Yes,
do paper plates. Now,
yes.
unless you have a conscience about putting more stuff in the landfill,
Right,
then
right.
and then even if you do, sometimes paper plates are a necessity of life.
That's right. That's right. My husband's mom was a home economics teacher, and years ago, we were in a very busy season of life, and they came to visit. And my husband told our oldest daughter to put the everyday dishes on, set the table, and use the everyday dishes, and she got out the paper plates. So, so it was a little embarrassing in front of my mother-in-law, who was a home economics teacher, but it's okay
Love it.
sometimes.
I love that story. That in of itself is, this is real life, right?
It
So,
is.
and we are past the season. We're past culturally the history where everything has to be perfect. I know there
Yes.
was a book that I read when I was in seminary in the beginning of my days, 40 something years, 40 plus years ago, where it was about choosing the china and it was about having everything perfect. And I understand a more formal atmosphere. And there might be situations where you need to do that.
Correct. Right.
We're more casual as a culture. And then we just need to ask the Lord, is this one of those moments where I need to bring out, if you have silver, bring the silver out. And if you don't, then bring out the paper plates. Just enjoy one
Right.
another's company right now. Seriously.
Well, just remember, it's not like you said in our last podcast, it's not about us, it's about our guest.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so, what are they going to be more comfortable with? And are we trying to entertain or are we trying to be biblically hospitable? And another thing I think that some of the women, younger and older, need to remember is just to be themselves. You know, I'm not Joy. I wasn't Joy then, my friend. I am Diane, and I need to be who God made me to be and to,
Absolutely.
set my table the way God, has gifted me to do that. So I just think that's very important for us to just be okay with who we are and who God made us to be. And we may not be that gifted in making flower arrangements or whatever, we don't have to. We don't have to. We just need to be ourselves. It's so important.
Absolutely. It really is so important for us just to um, not worry about the joys of the world, even though
Right.
even in the last week, I've stayed with a woman who is probably one of the most hospitable women I've ever met in my life. Just gracious and kind. You know what I loved about her is that she was very hospitable as we were staying with them to um, be a part of a vacation Bible school and an interim situation that we're serving in. It was so far away from home. She opened her home to us. And
Wow.
what I loved about it is that she was very formal, but she was also pulling out the paper plates ever so often.
Yeah,
And she just
that's
made
a
it
good thing.
easy, but I felt like I was
Yes.
staying at a hotel.
Yes. I do think there's women who just who thrive on that. My sister-in-law loves to come up with a theme, and she loves to decorate her
Yes,
table according to her
yes,
theme when she has people over,
right.
and she loves it. It's just who she is on the inside, and that's wonderful. But then there are those who are not gifted in that way, and that's okay too. You
Yeah.
know?
And the issue is not perfection in the event itself. It is not impressing others, as you said about your friend Joy, but
Yeah.
for you to be who you are. So what
Right.
happens if you burn something? Seriously, what happens?
Oh my goodness. Well, I've done that. So,
Me too.
goodness, I've done that a few times.
Yep, me too.
So we had a young couple over to one of the rentals we lived in. When my husband was sick, we had to sell our home. And so we moved into several rentals. And the first one, we had asked a young couple over. And so they showed up, and I had just put the bread under the broiler and was just going to brown it a little bit.
Yeah.
But they came in asking for a tour of the little house we were living in. So I start on this tour just to enter the kitchen that is filled with smoke, and the smoke detector's going off. And little did we know the smoke detector was connected to the alarm system, which was connected to the police department. So within 5 minutes, our driveway was filled with fire trucks, firemen, policemen, police cars, the whole bit. And, I could have been embarrassed. I mean, I was a little embarrassed, but I could have let that ruin our evening, or I could have just begun to cry. I mean, the toast was very, very, very well done. And that was the only bread I had for the night. But instead of that, this young lady said to me how that happening made her feel so much more comfortable and made her feel better about her own cooking mishaps and her own hospitality mishaps. So we just laughed it off. And even now, when I see them, they have two boys now in middle school, and we get a good laugh out of that night when I burned the bread
You
and
burned
set
the
off the
bread and
smoke
the fire
detector.
department came. My story
Yes.
is one of where I have a family in all, like a family, part of our family that we never really saw, and we have
Uh-huh.
them in, and I'm cooking like crazy, and I'm preparing meals, and I'm celebrating Christmas, and I'm packaging and wrapping and decorating. And we live in Southern Louisiana. And the truth is, I love a good fire at Christmas. I just think that it needs to have a fire at Christmas
Right.
in the fireplace and do all the things that are related to a quintessential Southern or traditional Christmas. And so I
Yes.
turned the air conditioner way down and it's freezing in the house. and I place all the fire logs in, and we're going to open our gifts. And I light the fireplace, and Preston says, Diane, you didn't open the flue.
Open the flug.
And I said, I did open the flue. And we have this disagreement in front of our family that I did open
Right.
as smoke is rolling out.
People are choking.
And everybody's going,
Isn't it so nice just to know that we're human? You
hey,
know,
I'm telling
we're
you, that
human.
was insufficient and inadequate. And
Kind of ruined the atmosphere, didn't
it
it?
did ruin the atmosphere. We had to stop the whole thing, open all the windows. I had to put on this little thing, get in there with a glove, and open up the flue so it would start drawing. It was it was so crazy. Seriously, is a great picture of not
Yeah.
having the right attitude for biblical hospitality.
That's right.
I mean, because of many of these family members at the time did not know the Lord, and here I am, just bent on doing it my way.
Yes. Yes. You did open that flug.
I did. And so, as we close out today, we hope that just us sharing and talking through some of these things and giving a little bit of experience, experience examples of what not to do or what happens if you do, it just helps you relax. Listen, it's
Yes,
all
it
about
does.
just opening your home or
Yeah.
giving a bed to sleep in. Or, I mean, I just had we have an adopted Polish daughter, and she and her husband are married and in International Mission Board missionaries. And I'm out of town, and I gave him the key to my house and said, enjoy. Just enjoy
Yes.
yourself. Come rest, because he's here before they are. They're coming in on furlough. And that's one of the things that we can do. It's just
Absolutely.
open our home. And I said to
Just
him,
from
there's not a lot of food in the refrigerator. We've been gone too long. And he said, I'll make do. It'll be fine. And you know what?
Yeah.
He made himself at home. This
Yes.
became a place of rest. He went to the
That's
pool more
right.
times than I've gone to the pool. I mean, that's what we're talking about, ladies. And we hope that you
Yes.
will stay with us for the next 5 podcasts, because on our next podcast, we're going to start breaking it down and giving you some seven practical steps or tips for planning ahead. So we want you to know that God understands where we are. He knows where we are more than he sees more than we see. He knows the things that are going on. He knows the financial lack. He knows what you have in your house, what's on your plate. He knows if you're working full time, trying to practice biblical hospitality. He knows if your expectation of your husband is is higher than you can even reach, and maybe you need to have a conversation with him about that. But we just want to be a support to you in this moment as we look at what it's going to look like. Here we come into the fall with biblical hospitality and what you can do to use it as an evangelistic tool. That's what this is all about, is loving on, number one, maybe some people that are mad at you in the church. Invite them in your home. Sit them around the table with them. Sometimes the best thing we can do is break bread together and have some laughter. Don't talk about everybody else at church or the problem at church, but talk with each other. Get to know. Maybe it will reveal to you, maybe the Holy Spirit will reveal to you in that visit exactly why they may be giving you or your husband a hard time. If you want to know more about biblical hospitality and Secret Savored ministry that Diane has started and founded, you can find them at secretssavored.org. It'll be in our show notes and in our blog post this week and all the different weeks. We'll just be writing on the topic that we've been discussing in our podcast for the week. But I can't leave today without mentioning our sponsor, Samaritan's Purse. and Operation Christmas Child. Their mission, let the children come to me, do not hinder them, for such belongs to the kingdom of God, out of Mark 10. And the mission of Operation Christmas Child is to demonstrate God's love in a tangible way to children in need around the world. And through this project, Samaritan's Purse partners with a local church worldwide to share the good news of Jesus Christ and to make disciples of all the nations. Just like it says in Revelation, when it says that every tongue and tribe and nation will be represented around that throne, these people are helping that happen through a little red Christmas box every year. You want to do and be a part of that every year. I'm so grateful that they've partnered with us this year. And so until next week, where we're going to give you those 7 steps and 7 tips, I'm Diane Nix with Coffee Chats, and I'm so glad that you were with us this week.